Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are going to have just a whale of a day today. We started out this journey 4 days ago, and some of you are just joining in now, but some of you have been with us the whole way, and I love that. So if you're watching right now, make sure you let us know in the chat. We'd love to give you guys a shout out. If you're a new watcher, let us know. And if you're like, Phillip, we're ride or die, we've been here the whole time, I want to hear about that too, because I just like to know who I'm talking to. So what we're going to be doing today, we are going to be examining what makes things stretch and what makes things bounce. And it's actually the same thing. It's the same thing that makes things stretch and make things bounce. So we're going to be checking into that. But before we do, I want to head back in the Wayback Machine, and we're going to be talking about what we did yesterday. So yesterday, if you remember, we were working with things of different densities. So we had some oil and an ice cube, and then a different type of oil, and that created this really cool experiment where we could watch the ice melt, get a little bit denser, because water is denser than ice, and then the water would sink through the oil. And it was really, really exciting. You know who found it really exciting? Aiden. So Aiden, we love seeing that. That was excellent. Our number 2 scientist of the day. This is a 2-for-1 combo. 2-for-1 combo. We have 2 sisters, and they're getting in there. So you see some ice floating on top of the water, and then you also see cups with the oil in it that the ice is melting in, which is fun. And then our number 1 winner for scientist of the day, the person who really got into it, not only got into the science, got into the spirit of the thing. This was pretty clear. It was the one, the only Royce. Royce in Kincardine. I think he's in Kincardine. He went full St. Patty's. He's got the whole gear on. So Royce, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And thanks for learning with us. We really appreciate that. Royce is here. Royce, perfect. Royce, if you're watching, if you want to get your mom or your dad or maybe your grandma or your grandpa, whoever posted that, if you can get them to reach out to us, we will send to you a Tinker Crate for being such a great scientist. So make sure you reach out, drop us your address, and then we will deliver one of these right to your door, because you deserve it, buddy. All right. So Royce is here. We have a few other people here. Brandy, who else is here? You can just let me know. Oh, that's all right. We'll keep going. So what we're going to be doing today, let's check out the materials that we're going to need, because today we're doing a really cool experiment. We're going to be making things bounce and making things stretch. So let's head over to camera 3. Hello, camera 3. So today, we're going to need really some really basic ingredients. The number 1 thing we're going to need, cornstarch. Cornstarch. Hi, Brandy. So we have some cornstarch. We're also going to need some water. Nothing fancy about that. We're going to need some food coloring. And we are going to need a microwavable dish. So you can use a coffee mug, or you can use just like any plastic dish, a bowl, anything like that will work. So we need cornstarch, we need water, a microwavable dish, and a spoon. And that's all we need, okay? So while you guys are getting all that stuff, I'm gonna head back to camera 1. Hey, camera 1. So you guys Start gathering those ingredients: cornstarch, water, spoon. Oh, I didn't mention this, but food coloring, just for fun, makes things a little snazzy. So water, cornstarch, food coloring, a spoon, and a microwavable dish. You guys start picking up some of that stuff. Meanwhile, Greta and I, if you've been watching, longtime watchers will know, Greta and I went to explore the Bruce Power Visitor Center, and they just renovated that whole place. It's going to be opening up again this summer. So Greta and I went to check it out and learn a little bit more about what happens at Bruce Power. So let's roll that clip and learn a little bit more about radiation.
Phillip and Greta's science adventure. We're gonna explore. We're gonna explore. Phillip and Greta's science adventure. We're gonna explore. Greta, what did we talk about yesterday? Radiation. That's right. Now, radiation happens when the atoms that make up everything, when they have a little bit too much energy. It means they're a little unstable and they're always trying to get rid of some of that energy. And that energy comes out in the form of radiation. So we talked about some everyday things that have radiation.
Bananas are 0.1 microsieverts.
Okay, so hardly any at all. So eating that many bananas, you can eat a lot of bananas before it gets dangerous. In fact, bananas aren't dangerous at all, unless, of course, you know a banana ninja.
All right, so we want to say a big thank you to Bruce Power Visitor Center for letting us hang out and letting us discover that bananas, even though they have a little bit of radiation, they're not that dangerous, unless, of course, a small child is throwing them right at you. So also, if anyone was paying attention to that theme song, you will know why I'm a science teacher and not a singer. So I do want to say a big thank you. I was checking out the chat. Royce is here. Cody's here. Adelaide and Olivia back again. Speaking of back again, Brockton, I know you got 28, 30 kids there, and I'm pumped up that you guys are here. So excited to see you guys. And then Abby and Emma from the big town of Tara. I think you guys are here too, and I could not be more excited about it. So big thank you to everyone who said they were in the chat. And once again, if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, really about anything, don't hesitate to ask, because I'd love to chat with you guys. So what we're going to be doing, we are going to be, you know what, let's just start this experiment, because we're going to need a little bit of time for it to cool. So we're going to head over to camera 3. Oh, we're going to head over to camera 3, and what we're going to be doing, we're going to take our cornstarch, and we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into our microwavable bowl. So I'm going to use this plastic container just so everyone can see. I'm going to go 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. And once again, this doesn't have to be super scientific. So you saw there that they might have been called heaping tablespoons. If you put in a little bit too much cornstarch, that's no big deal. You just might have to put in a little bit more water later. Okay? So we're going to go 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. We'll put that in, which is great. So once you get that, you can do this. Cornstarch is actually really interesting for a lot of science experiments. If you guys have ever made slime or Oobleck, cornstarch is the main ingredient for that. It's also the main ingredient of gravy, which I'm a big fan of. So maybe not the main ingredient, but it's in it. So we have the 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then I'm just going to grab 2 tablespoons of water. and put that in. And then I'm going to grab maybe just 1 drop of food coloring. I'm going to go blue. I'm going to go blue for this one. I'm going to put maybe 2 drops in, 1 or 2 drops. Yep. Yep. There you go. And then we're going to start mixing. Okay, so you just want to make sure it's all mixed up. It's actually quite difficult to mix cornstarch and water because cornstarch, it tries to like really absorb all the water. So you might, when you're doing it, you might say, Philip, I put in 2 heaping of the tablespoons. I need a little bit more water. If that's the case, that's what happened with me. If that's the case, don't freak out. You can just go in and pour just a scooch more in, just like that. And then stir that up. And you want it to be like a liquid, but like kind of just barely, right? So really stir that up. It takes a little bit of time to really work it all in. I might need just a little bit more water, but you're really going to want to stir this in so that it turns into a liquid. Right now, mine is actually a really good example of something called Oobleck, and we're going to make that a little bit later today, which doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about, but it's just super fun, so we're going to do that too. So all of a sudden, I got a little, mine's looking much more liquidy now. I'm mixing it up. Good things are happening. So this is good. So we got our liquid kind of all figured out now. So once again, we put in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of water, a little bit of food coloring. You might head to put in a little bit more water. If that's the case, that's fine. You just got to mix it up. Now, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to take our microwavable dish, and we're going to pop it into the microwave. Now, we're going to put it in the microwave for about 15 seconds. Now, don't do it yet. Just hold on a second. When I was kind of researching this experiment and seeing how other people did it, some people said 30 seconds. Some people said 20 seconds. I tried to do that in the microwave here at the NII headquarters, but it was way too much, way too long, way too hot. So you don't want it to dry out. So I would suggest just putting in for 15 seconds. But when you take it out, the Oobleck is going to be, the cornstarch mixture is going to be quite hot, even if you just put it in for 15 seconds. So this is when we really want to get maybe a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister or grandma and grandpa to help us with this, because if you pull it right out afterwards, like it's quite warm. So you just be careful about that. So we're going to go and we're going to put our mixture in the microwave for about 15 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some time. Go and do that. Meanwhile, I'm going to walk back over to camera 1. So I just heard that Xander is also here. Xander running off to his microwave right now, which is great. Okay, so we're going to wait for these things to microwave. So for the next 15 seconds, I'm going to do a little microwave dance. This is exciting TV. Woo! All right, so things are microwaving. Just a reminder, when you pull it out, it's going to be a little bit warm. So mom or dad, maybe test that out. But what you want to do when you pull it out of the microwave is I want you to pack that into a little ball. Okay, pack it into a little ball so it ends up being something like this. Okay, so I made this about 30 minutes ago, and it's already starting to harden just a little bit. So you want to make it into as close as a ball shape as you can, and then you're just going to let it sit. It's going to harden, and that way it's not going to fall apart. It's not going to get squishy, or it'll be a little bit squishy, but mainly it'll be bouncy. So you guys couldn't see that because it bounced below, but I'll do it over at camera 3 in a second. So once again, you're going to take that out of the microwave. You're going to grab it. Just be a little bit careful. It's going to be quite warm, and you kind of mush it into a ball. Okay. that ball, okay, you'll be able, after it hardens, it'll bounce. It'll be like an actual bouncy ball, which is kind of fun, seeing that we just made it out of cornstarch. Now, Brandy is there, and she's wondering, she's saying, Phillip, I'm a librarian. I know things for a living. This is what I do. But why do things bounce? Why do things stretch? That's like a weird thing when you think about it. Why are some things bouncy, but some things not? So the reason why some things are bouncy and some things aren't, I'm going to go back to camera 3 for this one, just so you guys can see. So what happens when we drop things from up high? Well, when we drop things from up high, as they fall, they're gathering something we call kinetic energy. So anytime something moves, okay, there's a lot of energy behind that movement, okay? So as it's falling, the ball has all this kinetic energy, and then it hits the table. And when it hits the table's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay still. So all of that energy has to go somewhere, okay? All that energy has to go somewhere. So what happens is that the ball, if we watch it in slow motion, it would like be going down as a ball, and then when it hit, it would flatten. It's going to flatten a little bit. But that's not the end of it. Because what happens is all of the molecules inside. So throughout the course of this week, we've been talking about how everything is made up of particles. Okay, everything is made up of a whole bunch of particles. So that's why when we talk or like sing, the vibrations in the air, like one particle hits another particle, hits another particle, and then that's how it travels through. Or even like density, we talked about how sometimes the particles are packed in really tight, and sometimes they're a little bit farther apart, and that depends on how dense something is. So these particles in our ball, they are connected, like if you go into like the molecular level, they're connected by these strands and like all of this energy, they're keeping things together. But when the energy pushes them down and pushes the parts so the ball flattens, all of that energy, all of those bonds, they start to stretch. They're like, oh no, you're too far away. But then they're like, come back to the other particle. And then they come back into shape. So when the ball stretches like this, goes down and it stretches and it flattens, all the particles are like, this isn't how I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be like close to those guys. So it stretches out and then it goes right back into shape. And when it bounces back into shape, that actually has so much energy saying, oh no, come back, that will actually cause the ball to bounce. Boop, boop. Oh, my ball wasn't perfectly round, so it's very hard to bounce it straight. So that is actually what is happening. And it's crazy to think that how everything we see, whether it's like little bouncy balls or, you know, this cup or you or me, we're all made up of these little tiny particles that like they want to be close to all of their other particle friends, which is weird to think about. So I hope you guys got that. If you're like, yes, Phillip, I understand that, put that in the chat. If you have any questions about that, also put it in the chat because I'd love to hear your questions as we go on to the next thing. So also, if your bouncy ball worked, I wouldn't test it out yet. I would keep it. I think it needs to cool for a little bit longer because if you start throwing it before it's ready, it will just smush and it won't kind of bounce back. So, oh, do we have a comment? Brandy. Brandy is back in the broadcast. The killer bees. Brandy, what did you think about that?
You know, Phillip, I loved how you described how those molecules they're just like wanting to stay together, right? That's a perfect visual of why things are bouncing and stretching.
Yeah, they stretch out and then they're like, no, and they snap back into shape. So they go back into the ball shape. But just that energy of them coming back together, that's what causes things to bounce. Sorry, I cut you off, Brandy. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm jumping in because Cody has a question. Cody is wondering if we know why parts of the ball that you have is white. Why part of it is blue and why part of it is white?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cody, the reason why some parts of this ball are white, and to be honest, probably some of yours is when I put the food dye in or the food coloring in, I just didn't mix it quite enough. So when I microwaved it, there was some parts that didn't get like totally mixed together. Also, these parts they might have been on like the outside and like got a little bit more heat than the rest of it. So if your ball has a couple white sections like that, don't worry about it. It'll still work. That is all good.
Like a cool bar.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And I'm just going to check to see who this is from. It's JMC, but I'm not sure if that is their initials. They're asking
the notorious JMC.
Okay, there we go. Okay. How big can I make a ball?
How big can you make the ball? That is a really good question. So you know the recipe for how to make this ball. So it's essentially, 2 parts cornstarch, 2 parts water. So as long as it's the even amount, that's fine. What your problem is going to be is how big is your microwave?
Yeah.
Because if you put too much in, you won't be able to fit it in your microwave. Also, if you put a lot of this in, it's going to be a lot harder to like cook in your microwave. But I would imagine you could make one like much bigger than this. You could do like maybe 4 times the size. It could be like the size of your head. But once again, you would have to change the microwave times. And especially if you're cooking something that big, the inside is going to get very, very hot. So just be very careful with your hands. But what I like about that, and JMC, thanks for asking, is like that's an experiment. Like that's something where we don't know what the answer is. We don't know what's going to work and what's not. So like, yeah, you would have to experiment. You would have to try and then see what works. And that is, like, this wasn't an experiment. This was more of a demonstration. I knew this would work, but I don't know if this would work if it was like 4 times as big. So that's a cool experiment for maybe you to do over lunch break. And if you do it, make sure you send it in to our Instagram page because I'd love to see it. That would be really cool.
Yeah, thanks, JMC. Xander is also sending a compliment your way, Phillip, and they think that your ball looks really cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Cool. So we have our balls. They're resting comfortably. They're just cooling, which is great. We're just going to do one other experiment with Oobleck or with cornstarch now that we have it. Okay. So it's not really about why things bounce. It's just a really cool thing. So let's give it a shot. So I'm going to head back to camera 3. So what we're going to do this time, we are going to take our cornstarch. And when we made the ball, we put an equal amount of cornstarch and water in this container. This time, we're going to put 2 parts cornstarch and 1 part water. So a little bit of ratios here. So that's important. So I'm going to open up my cornstarch. Okay. Oh, my spoon is kind of all covered. So that's okay. So I'm going to put in maybe 2 big scoops of cornstarch. And then I'm just going to put in a little bit of water. I'm going to put in a little bit more cornstarch just so you guys can see. So I'm going to put in 2 parts cornstarch and then 1 part water. And then what we're going to see is something called Oobleck. Now, Oobleck is something called a non-Newtonian fluid, which means it is neither a liquid or a solid. Okay, so sometimes it's a solid and sometimes it's a liquid. So when you put in your cornstarch and your water, take a little bit of time and just start mixing it up. Just start mixing it up, getting it all kind of gathered in, and we're going to see some good things, some really cool things start to happen. Oh yeah, mine is there, which is great. So I'm going to take off my wedding ring because things are going to get pretty messy in a second. So what's really cool about Oobleck is that when it's under pressure, it's a solid. But when it's not under pressure, it's a liquid. And once again, this has to do with like kind of the particle theory of matter, which we were talking about, how everything's made up of particles. So I'm going to head to camera 1 just so I can show you this a little bit better. All right, so we're here, and you can see my Oobleck, and it's a liquid. It's flowing. Things are happening. Yeah, it's definitely flowing around. I'm not trying not to spill it, but yeah, it is flowing. But what happens is I can pick some up and I can put it in my hand, and as long as I keep pressure on it, whoop, as long as I keep pressure on it, it's a solid. But as soon as I open my hand, boom, it turns back into a liquid. So this is kind of like a super fun thing to play with, where you can have it, oh, it's a liquid, but then, oh, as soon as I grab it and I squeeze it, it's okay, it's a solid again. But then you let it loose, and it's a liquid. And it's super slimy. Boom.
So fun.
Yeah, my favorite part of science is when science gets a little bit messy. So
I was gonna
that's kind of
ask
fun.
how many vests you have, and like if you've ever, considered getting a lab coat vest.
Do you know what? Lab coats rarely come in vests because the whole point of lab coats is to cover up everything else. And vests aren't good at that. However, I like to say that I'm invested in my work.
Yes, I think you are.
That's a good pun for my library folk. All right, so once again, with the Oobleck, if you give it a good squeeze, it'll stay in your hand, but as soon as you kind of open your hand, turns into liquid once again. What's really kind of fun about this, I've seen some experiments on YouTube where people will make like an entire pool out of Oobleck, and they'll see if they can like run across. So they'll go and they'll run through, and when their foot hits it, it's a solid, but if they ever stop, then they'll start to sink in, which I think would be terrifying, but they're okay with it. I think that would be very scary, but that's just me. So what we're going to be doing now, we have this just to recap how we made the ball, because if you tuned in late and you weren't entirely sure what happened there, my science buddy Beckett and we kind of went through the steps on how to make the ball as well. So we're going to roll that film, and afterwards, your ball may have cooled enough that we can give it maybe a gentle try. So let's roll that film, and I'll see you in a minute. Hey man, want to do something fun? Sure. We are going to be making a bouncy ball out of cornstarch. I need you to take 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and then we need 2 scoops of water. Put 1 drop of food coloring in there. Yeah. Oh.
Whoops.
And we're just gonna mix that up.
We'll be back. Through the kitchen.
We scoop this out, and it's still just a little bit warm. You're gonna see that it's pretty soft. You can really mold it.
Yeah.
But what you want to do, you want to make it into a ball as close to perfectly round as you can, and then you just want to set it down somewhere for it to harden. So what you're going to see, because it's not perfect, like if it ever lands there, it'll bounce a little bit funny. When this hardens, it'll be a really nice bouncy ball that you'll be able to use. Just remember, because it's made out of cornstarch, eventually this will like dry out and crack and break, but it's no big deal because now you know how to make your own. All right, so once again, that was Beckett and I testing out our homemade bouncy balls. Now, you guys, your cornstarch balls, they've been cooling for a little bit. They're probably not ready for a full-on test yet. Not ready for a full-on test. But if you want to go back to them and maybe just give them like a little drop, if you want to just test out to see like, or even like a little squeeze, you'll say like, hey, I'm starting to feel a little squeeziness, starting to feel a little like bounce to them. And then, oh, boom. Yeah, you can see how they've really started to have those bonds form so that when they stretch out, when all that kinetic energy hits the desk or the floor or the table, it stretches and then it will bounce right back. Okay? So anyways, really cool. These balls, they're going to be good for about a day, but then they're going to get a little bit too dry. But what's really nice about them, because they're made out of cornstarch, you can just maybe pop them in the recycling, or not the recycling, pop them in the compost, or just like kind of crumble them up and leave them outside, and then that's okay. They're all natural, so they'll decompose quite nicely. So there you go.
We've got a question from JMC.
Yeah.
They're wondering if they can cool it more quickly in the freezer.
Yes, you could cool it more quickly. I'm not sure if that would be wise, though, because when you cool things really fast, the outside cools very quickly, but then the inside doesn't always cool as much. Also, we don't want it to cool so much that those bonds freeze, okay? Because we remember yesterday when we talked about the difference between water and ice. When things cool too much, sometimes those bonds get a little rigid, and we don't want rigid bonds for things to bounce. We want them to be nice and stretchy so that when they hit the ground, they'll spread out and then like swoosh back. So we don't want it to get too cold. We just want it to get like room temperature. So you could cool it down faster, but that may not be what you want to do.
Patience is key, I think.
Yeah, but that was a really good question,
Absolutely.
James.
Maybe with an experiment on a different day with a different ball, right?
Or that's the joy. It's only 2 scoops of cornstarch. Try it out.
Right. See what happens.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Also, if you try that out, make sure you send it to our Explore page or even just our Facebook page. So it's Explore at NII Explore, or our Facebook page is the Nuclear Innovation Institute. Because I would love to see how that worked. I think that'd be great. Speaking of things I love to see work, librarians. Librarians, I love to see them in action. They always got cool stuff going on. Brandy, what cool stuff do you have going on at the Chesley Library?
Yeah, so thanks, Philip. We are super excited that we are opening back up for in-person programming across all the branches in the Bruce County Library System. So check out your local branch and see what's on the April calendar and what's planned. So specifically in Chesley, we will be hosting Storytime and After School Club again. So give us a call or drop us an email and we will tell you all the details. Some things that are happening that are pretty exciting. We always have Online Builders Club happening every month. So we put together a monthly video that we post on now the last Wednesday of the month. And you can also join us live on Microsoft Teams, and we can build together on Teams. We make all kinds of fun things. We have a theme every month, and we just hang out and build together for about 45 minutes after school at 4:30 on that last Wednesday. So you can email the Chesley Branch Library if you want to get that Teams invite and join us someday after school. We can hang out and build. The other fun things that I think we've got going on, my kids are super into fidget toys these days and sensory toys. And a lot of our kits are circulating again. This is one of our sensory kits here. And we've got, there's like a light up ball. Oh, there we go. It's lighting up. And this one is actually, here we go. It's a Duncan cube and like some of the little snappy snakes, which are really fun. So those are back in circulation and come check them out. The other thing that we've got in the Chesley branch, and we've got it for a few more weeks, is one of our 3D printers, which were purchased via NWMO funds, I believe, are our biggest sponsor. But I can show you a couple of the cool things that we have printed here in our branch. And some of our staff have been having a lot of fun with this. And we've hosted a few patrons coming in. You can do a 1-hour session, do a quiz, and then you can come in and do your own print jobs on the 3D printer. We have lots of colors of filament to print with, and this is one of the owls that we have printed. I'm going to get it a little closer here. Sorry about that. This is a phone charger that is an alligator, a crocodile. It's cool. Phone stand. This, I believe, was printed in all one print job, but it's there's lots of moving parts, and I'm not super up on sci-fi. This might be a character, or maybe it's just a cool little creature, which is pretty fun, but there's the legs move. And this is for my Harry Potter fan at home. Here is a miniature 3-dimensional Hogwarts print, which is really cool. And we've got a collapsible cup. It doesn't hold water, but it's pretty neat. So maybe it's like creating a little magic show. And so after the end of this month, the 3D printers are moving to the Lucknow, Mildmay, and Tobermory branches. So, and they'll be there for 3 months. So if you want to go and check those out, do that. So that's what's happening here at the library. I also have a few books to share when we're ready to do that, but that's some of the goings on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about the books.
All right.
You're burying the lead.
We're more than books, but books are our staple. So here is one of our awesome chemistry for kids books, The Kitchen Pantry Scientist. So a lot of the stuff you've been doing this week, Phillip, these books are, a lot of the same simple at-home ingredients. So this one is really fun. You can check it out. We also have another one called Crazy Concoctions and the Mad Scientist Guide to Messy Mixtures, right? And Oobleck is nothing if messy and fun. So more of that kind of science here. And then one other thing that I think a lot of people and kids are really excited about are our Wonder Books. We have, I haven't checked lately, but over about 70 of them in our collection. And Wonder Books are really an audio book added to the book. So the audio player is right here in the front of the book. You press the play button and the story reads to you, and it's super fun. Sorry about the glare. And we've got some amazing titles, some classics and some new books. And you can just sit down and have this book read to you, which is really fun. And here's another one. This one, it's too quick. This one's called I'm New Here, all about making friends. And this one's called Dino Truck. So when you're in the branch, look for this sticker, this shiny gold sticker, and you will know it's a Wonder Book. And you can have it read the book to you, which is really, really fun. Yes. So that is what's happening and what I'm super excited about in the library these days.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things that are happening at the library. Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I know March break is coming to the end, but the joy of the libraries, they stay open. So make sure you check out the library. Lots of cool stuff there going on. However, as I said, March break is coming to an end, which means we're wrapping this up. We're almost done today's class. We just have one thing left to do. And I know you guys know what it is. I know you guys are jonesing for it. It is, of course, the poem of the day. Now, the poem of the day, this isn't just a poem of the day. This is a poem of the week.
Nice.
And it goes something like this. I keep putting my scarf on too tight. All right, it goes something like this. Oh my, what a week it's been, and we've had lots of fun. It feels like we just got started, and now it seems we're done. But while our shows are over, well, there's something we should do and go over one last time the things we learned with you. We learned that friction is mighty strong when we used it to lift a bottle full of rice. We learned that vibrations in the air can end up sounding pretty nice. We learned that Bernoulli's principle can keep a ping pong afloating, and differences in density can allow us to go boating. We learned that by using science, we can make things bounce and stretch. But there is just one last thing that we should not forget. That learning with our friends is fun, and we should do that more. For there's no telling what you'll discover when we get together to explore. And that has been the poem of the day. Boom. All right. So guys, one more thing before we go. This is your last chance. So if you have any questions about anything, make sure you pop that in the chat. I'd love to answer them. I do want to say a cup. Oh, Brandy, do we have something in the chat?
Yeah. So Cody is wondering if we do science during other school breaks too. And I think that might be a bit of watch our social feeds and see what we've got planned in the coming up.
Yeah, so we do, generally we always do kind of stuff like this. And over the summer, I think, yeah, we do have some plans to get out there doing all sorts of science stuff. Both NII Explore and the library, we're both of us, we're gonna be doing lots of science stuff. So that's gonna be really fun. So make sure, just like Brandy said, keep an eye on our social media stuff because we'll let you know.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Cody. And Royce, of course, is jumping in there and saying, thanks, this week was so much fun. And Cody also said he had a lot of fun, so.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. That's fantastic. I want to say a big thank you to the library. You guys were great to work with. You guys, you really see like Brandy and I, but there's actually like a whole team of people putting things together. So we want to say a big thank you to them. We want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Bruce Power. We really appreciate all of your support. But most of all, we want to thank you guys. We want to thank everyone watching at home, because if you guys aren't watching, we would just be doing this for nobody. So we want to say a big thank you for you guys, everybody watching the Brockton Child Care Center. Boom. We really appreciate you guys. So thanks for watching. And always, always, always make sure you stay curious and keep learning. All right. That's it. That's all. I hope you all have a fantastic Friday, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.